Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive's UFC 138 post-fight podcast and user Grand Prix prediction first round wrap-up. It's a mouthful, I know, but it had to be said. I'm not going to actually talk about who won in that because I want to leave the dramatic effects up. What I've done for the video, note the dramatic music. What I've done for the video is I have popped up your old score from UFC 137. It shows up, and then after a few brief seconds, the addition of the UFC 138 numbers will pop up, the total, and who's advancing to the next round. I've really enjoyed the first round. I hope all of you did as well. UFC 137, 138 for round 1. Round 2, 16 players advancing. It will consist of UFC on Fox, UFC 139, and The Ultimate Fighter. There'll be 3 rounds from here on out. And I'm guessing at this point, the first combined score, the first score is passed by, and it was between Cody Playx and Sykes, and that was a very, very tight matchup, and it was actually finished in a tie. I just want to take a quick look at how that went down. Coming out of UFC 137, Cody Playx had an 18-17 lead. UFC 138, Sykes had a better score, 15-14, which gave him a 32-32 tie, the only group that was tied. That actually came down to the final fight. Sykes was leading and had Chris Lieben to win. Cody Playx had Mark Munoz to win. Munoz, of course, winning. He won by TKO. Playx had him by decision. Made it 32-32. So we had to go to the first tiebreaker. The first tiebreaker was complete predictions, so fighter, winner, and outcome, stretching over both 137 and 138. Looked at 138, they both had 4. Took it back one further to UFC 137, and going backwards, starting with the main event all the way down to the opening fight. It came down to the very first fight of the night at 137, Ramsey Najim and Danny Downs. Sykes of Ireland had Downs. Cody Playx of the United States had Ramsey Najim by decision, so he wins on tiebreakers 8-7. He will advance to the second round. Sykes, not much you can say. Sykes is actually represented from MMABettingOdds.com. Did the best they possibly could, but good job there. And this is the way this tournament works. And if I do it again, hopefully I will do it again. I'm sure they'll come back just as strong. Let's get into talking about the event quickly. UFC 138, Kamikaze Overdrive, and just for those of you wondering, again, my name not listed here. Kamikaze Overdrive did manage to advance to the second round. I had an okay first event. I got the job done at the second event enough to move on. UFC 138 went 5-4 overall. It started off pretty decent. I lost the opening fight, and then I had Von Lee, lost a split decision. He did clearly win the first round. He just kind of faded a little bit. It got me off to a rough start, but after that I had Che Mills to defeat Chris Cope by knockout. He did that in dramatic fashion, 40 seconds in. He also got knocked tonight for $70,000 extra dollars, a pretty nice debut for Mills. Next, Michihiro Omagawa versus Jason Young. I had Omagawa winning that by decision, and that's how he did it. He used his grappling to take out Young. Young was clearly the superior striker and was working it, but Omagawa was able to control the fight with his grappling, his judo, and earn the victory as a result. Up next, Rob Broughton versus Philip DeFries. I had DeFries winning it by submission. He won the first round using his grappling. He was winning the first half of the second round until Broughton turned around, and that was Broughton's kind of strong suit that we've seen in a lot of his other 2 fights. He's now 1-2 in the UFC. He gets better if his opponent starts to fade, because he seems to have this endurance despite his lack of, that physique that would suggest this. He seems to get better as the fight progresses, and if his opponent fades, he takes over, and DeFries seemed to be fading, and Broughton took control of the second round, but DeFries came out, reestablished his grappling dominance in the third, and earned the decision victory. So that put him 3-1. John McGuire defeated Justin Edwards. I didn't do a prediction for that. We didn't even look at that one. And it says the fight re-aired on Spike's main card following the Alves Abdi fight, so you get a chance to check that out. I watched it in Canada on Sportsnet, so we didn't get a chance to see that fight. And I had to take off. It was on Facebook. I took off before that. Went to watch the rest of them at the other location where I was watching them. Moving to the main card, it got started again on the right foot. I had Terry Adam to defeat Eddie Falalotto by knockout. And he paid well if he'd done that. I picked him on a props to win by knockout. Unfortunately, Adam caught him, had him in all kinds of trouble very quickly, 17 seconds. Then caught him in a guillotine choke and submitted him. One of the first of 4 submissions on the main card. So I'm 4-1 overall, looking very well. Next, Anthony Parash versus Cyril Diabate. Now this is a main card fight. But when I predicted it, it was part of the prelims, so I didn't give an in-depth prediction, but I took Diabate to win this fight by knockout. He looked like he just couldn't get his game going, and Prix capitalized on a couple of mistakes by Diabate that put him on the mat, and Prix eventually worked to a dominant position and locked in the rear naked choke and got the tap out. So Anthony Prix 2-0 at lightweight since dropping down after losing to Mirko Krokop at heavyweight. He drops down, and he looked fairly decent against Diabate, and we'll see, where he goes from there. I don't know if he can take on somebody with some solid striking and good takedown defense. He could be in trouble, but I don't know where Anthony Prix goes from there. Diabate, if he had won that fight, he might have got to move up the ladder a little bit and take on a higher level opponent, and certainly could have worked, gained some notoriety. But unfortunately, it's a big loss for him on a main card. Next up, middle welterweight division, Thiago Alves versus Papi Abadé. I don't know if I'm saying his name right yet, but Alves wins it at the 332 mark. Also a submission, a first-round submission, rear naked choke again. Alves' first UFC submission looked very good. Early good. His striking, Abdi was getting some, having some success with his striking, but Alves just held in there. He's a veteran fighter, did not get flustered, did not get frustrated. Landed some big shots. That fight could have very easily been stopped. Very easily been stopped, and Alves would have got a TKO like I picked Alves to win by TKO or knockout. But he took the fight to the ground, he capitalized on it, and he finished. That's a big win for Thiago Alves. He very well could have got his walking papers after that fight, despite the fact he's an exciting fighter. So Alves gets a little bit of rebirth. Papi Abdi came in. He's got a lot of hype around. It's his first career loss. I'm sure he'll be back. The biggest thing I wanted to look at with that, my prediction was based on, is that Abdi never faced an opponent like Alves before, an opponent of his caliber, who wasn't going to initially fold under the pressure, and Alves was going to stand right there and throw back at him like he did, and we saw what happened. So I'm now 5-2. Brad Pickett versus Inan Barrow. Fight of the night, and I had Pickett to win this by decision. It was very clear the way these guys were throwing down early. This fight was not going to go 3 rounds. And it basically came down to who was going to crumple first. And unfortunately, Pickett wobbled. Got hit with a ton of big shots. It's not like he got clipped with one little shot and dropped. This guy got pounded on, and he threw his own fair share of big shots back at Barrow. Barrow's a top-level striker. I didn't give him enough credit in my breakdown. He trained with Jose Aldo. Very impressive in this night. He had far more. The variety, the depth of attack that he was throwing at Pickett was far more diverse, and as a result got the job done. He also rear naked choke, got that dominant position. He beautifully took Pickett's back and sunk it in. Very swift on the mat. Be very interesting to see where he goes from here. He climbs up in my rankings. He'll jump ahead of Pickett. I think I had Barrow at 9 and Pickett at 8. I'd like to see him maybe take on somebody like Scott Jorgensen, a well-known bantamweight who's basically only lost to Dominic Cruz, to a significant opponent. He wins that fight, he could find himself in a number 1 contenders bout. That'd be a big fight for him. Either way, looks good for him. Pickett, disappointing UFC debut, but he does get a sizable chunk of change in his pocket. Either way, I'm sure he'll be back. And he's got a lot to provide this division with, and he's by no means is he out of the running for a title shot with a lack of depth at bantamweight. Finally, main event, first 5-round non-title main event with the 2 competitors. The chances of it going the distance was fairly limited with the knockout power of Lieben and Munoz they both possess, and of course it didn't go the distance. I was 5-3 coming in. I had Lieben to win by knockout. Mark Munoz won by technical knockout, stopping Lieben corner stoppage after 2 rounds. It's just Mark Munoz's ground and pound was too significant. What I was hoping, what started unfolding was not unexpected. I was kind of hoping Munoz would work takedowns and Lieben would get back up, but he kept taking damage and punishment. And one of the things that threw me off is the research I did, I had Lieben's reach actually being slightly longer than Mark, so he could use his little bit of reach and pound on him. Turns out the reach was not longer, it was slightly shorter, which forced Lieben to close the distance and have to engage Mark, and that allowed Mark to get his hands on, initiate the grappling match, put him on the mat, and like Lieben said, Mark was just a superior wrestler, superior grappler, and that was the difference. And it shows that Chris Lieben's a tough guy, but he had to stop. He stopped the fight after 2 rounds because he couldn't see, and you go back to George St. Pierre, who fought, 2.5, maybe 3 rounds without vision in one eye. And I know St. Pierre had his title on the line, and he wasn't fighting a guy at the power of Mark Munoz, nonetheless, he kept going, leaving forced to stop. But still, he's a tough guy. He took a lot of punishment in that, and no shame in that. Just wanted to make that point. Mark Munoz kind of calling out Anderson Silva. Is he ready for a title shot? I don't know. I know he trains with Anderson a little bit, or had trained a little bit with Anderson. I just, where could he go from here? He holds wins over Damian Maia and Chris Lieben. But he did that big loss to Yushin Okami. It was a problem. I don't know, a match. I don't know where. Is he entitled for a title shot? I don't think so. I think he needs another big win. Who does he need to beat? Vitor Belfort? He's fighting Anthony Johnson would be a name that comes to mind. I don't want to see him fight Yushin Okami again, because Yushin Okami kind of just won an uneventful matchup in that fight. Either way, Mark Munoz very much in the thick of things. Disappointed there, because that drops my Mark Munoz overall prediction record to 3-2. I didn't have a lot of experience predicting the majority of the fighters on here. I only had maybe 14 or 15 total fights predicted involving at least one fighter from this show. Previous fight, I think I had over 30, or maybe closer to 40. Nonetheless, 5-4, not a great night. I looked to rebound at UFC on Fox, which the show is already up. As I said, for that fight, I gave a very lengthy prediction for Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos. Very difficult prediction to break down, fight to break down. Please check that out and let me know what you think. I also gave long, elongated predictions for Clay Guida, Ben Henderson, and Pablo Garza versus Dustin Poirier. And then for the remaining fights, I had the abbreviated short breakdowns. For them, again, I will be sending them an email with the new predictions. Please, for your predictions, of course, UFC on Fox, for those predictions, please send them in as soon as possible. I know I sent out some badgering emails saying, guys, get your predictions and blah, blah, blah. I know I said the deadline was the prelims. If you're going to wait to the last second, I send an email, just write me quick back, or post on the video saying, I'll get my predictions in, don't worry. And that way, because I just don't want to see anybody get a free walk, and then it kind of takes the fun out of it if somebody doesn't send their predictions in, yada, yada. I know it's just fun, and people have far more important things to do. But at the same time, it takes 5 minutes sometimes to write your predictions right before the, before the before the fights get going. Either way, first round was fun. I survived it barely. It should be interesting. 3 rounds will add that whole other element of, 2 rounds. The reason for the first round, I only had 2 events, was simply because there's 32 competitors. There was a lot to manage. Now there's only 16 competitors, only 8 matchups. A little bit easier to manage. 3 rounds will now make it interesting, and you'll really have to be consistently doing well to advance to the next round and to continue on to this tournament. I think I'm just about done. I think I've covered most things. Please feel free to comment, talk about the event. It was very good. I think, very exciting. UFC 137 didn't have a lot of finishes outside of, a lot of exciting fights. UFC 138 provided us with a lot of entertainment, and it was free. I did say that, these events where these guys were lesser knowns are getting an opportunity to shine in the spotlight usually produce some epic performances, or at least very entertaining performances. I think that held true. I think you can all agree that this was a very fun event in the sense that it was over an hour early because there were so many fights finished on the main card. Usually it's the other way around. Main card finish. Main card doesn't get, are all decisions and so forth, and the prelims are, are stoppages and submissions. Little flip-flop. Either way, good event overall. I'm looking forward to next weekend. I'm really looking forward to UFC 139. I think it's going to be a dynamite card, and I'm just going to start my research for that one. I think I covered everything, so again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Make sure you wait to the very end of the video. You can see the updated tournament bracket with the 8 second-round matchups that I have now put together. And like I said, I'll be sending out a quick email to summarize everything up and get everything going to the second round. So Kamikaze Overdrive, MMA predictions, UFC 138 post-fight podcast, and user prediction tournament first round wrap-up. Thank you very much for listening. Check out my latest prediction video, UFC on Fox. That's enough for me. I'm out of here.